There's a certain type of person whose very existence quietly unsettles the world around them, not by intent, but by simply being who they are. If you've ever felt strangely out of place, as if you're carrying something within you that can't be easily explained or contained, know this: that's not a flaw, it's a rare kind of brilliance. Those who walk this path are often misunderstood, but what sets them apart isn't just what they do, but the powerful reality they bring with them. The journey might be lonely at times, but the very things that make life complicated for you are the same qualities that make you a catalyst for something extraordinary. You're not here to fit in. You're here to remind the world that something magical is still possible. In spaces where most move unseen, some carry a resonance that changes everything it touches. The moment they enter, the atmosphere quietly rearranges itself, as if invisible currents have shifted beneath the surface. This presence is neither loud nor forceful, but has a way of making ordinary moments feel charged with hidden significance. Encounters with such individuals often leave others searching for words, unsure whether they've witnessed a kind of silent wisdom or encountered a force they can't name. Rather than seeking to impress, their very nature draws curiosity and sometimes discomfort, an unfiltered intensity that makes others wonder if they've just glimpsed the blueprint of a deeper reality. It isn't about charisma or showmanship, but an untamed authenticity that unsettles shallow interactions and invites everything around it to wake up. Some individuals move through life with a resonance that cannot be disguised, no matter how quiet their steps. Their presence unsettles the comfortable silence of ordinary spaces, pulling hidden truths from the shadows and inviting everything nearby to re-examine itself. When this kind of energy emerges, people can't help but be drawn closer, sensing something profound but unable to predict the depth of its impact. Unexpected waves of emotion surface, memories, doubts, and longings that had been dormant until now. Encounters with such rare souls are never simple. The effect is like a sudden change in pressure. Internal defenses rise, old patterns try to reassert themselves, and many instinctively shrink back to the familiar ground of routine and predictability. This withdrawal is subtle, sometimes showing up as nervous laughter or an urge to change the subject, sometimes as a quiet inner turbulence. It's not about intimidation in any traditional sense, but about the involuntary clarity such a person radiates, which reflects hidden voids and unfinished business within those they meet. This type of influence exposes insecurities without intent, forcing a confrontation with one's own limits. The very strength that inspires awe in others can also highlight unspoken fears, creating an invisible distance. Those in the orbit of such an individual may struggle to keep up with the sudden illumination, and so they retreat, seeking safety in the shadows of their own comfort zone. The result is a paradox. Even surrounded by people, this unique force can find itself set apart, not through will, but by the sheer weight of what it reveals to others. Some are born with a strange gravity, an invisible pull that draws others near, only for those same people to find themselves backing away, unsettled by a feeling they can't quite name. The strange contradiction of feeling deeply connected yet standing at a distance becomes an inescapable rhythm for those who carry such force. Time after time, new faces appear in their world, approaching with curiosity, but leaving with questions they are afraid to answer. The road forward is rarely crowded, even surrounded by voices. The air is thick with a peculiar loneliness, as if the brightness they radiate reveals hidden corners that others are not ready to explore. What might seem a burden at first, this profound intensity, is actually a kind of inner compass, steering them toward spaces and people where their true self can be recognized without shrinking. There's an unmistakable relief in quiet moments and small gatherings, where unspoken truths flow easily and the usual masks fall away. The choice to linger in silence or close company isn't born of rejection, but of the desire to exist fully, without trimming one's soul to blend into the background noise. Large crowds offer little nourishment for someone attuned to deeper currents. Instead, meaning is found in places where the air is still and the conversation stretches far beneath the surface. Most gatherings are filled with quick exchanges and scattered attention, which leaves the one who seeks real connection feeling strangely out of phase with the crowd. This is not a flaw but an invitation to wait for resonance, to seek those rare encounters where understanding is instinctive and the language of presence is enough. Attempts to build bridges in noisy rooms often dissolve into polite nods, while the desire for honesty grows stronger with every half-finished conversation. Isolation, then, is not chosen but discovered, built from the moments when genuine intention meets the guarded uncertainty of others. In such spaces, being alone becomes less of a sentence and more of a sanctuary, a place where one's spirit is allowed to unfold without compromise. Some lives are shaped by the instinct to safeguard what is rare within. Distance from the world is not just measured in steps, but felt in the way boundaries are drawn around a delicate inner flame. This act of keeping space is neither reaction nor accident, it's a mindful practice, a way to ensure that the most vital part of oneself is not spent in places where it will go unnoticed. The greatest treasures are often reserved for those moments and people where appreciation flows naturally, where being true to oneself is effortless and mutual respect sets the tone. Within these protected spaces, every thought and feeling can be brought into the open without dilution, and what is offered is honored, not merely observed. Life unfolds with a quiet discernment, like an artist choosing only the purest colors for a hidden canvas. Certain presences are welcomed, while others are gently held at a distance, not out of contempt but for the sake of preserving a resonance that cannot survive everywhere. It's here, among the trusted few or in solitude's gentle embrace, that expression reaches its fullest height. There is no need to shrink or compromise, each word spoken carries its true weight, and every moment is lived without pretense. This is not a withdrawal but a conscious journey to spaces where genuine connection thrives, where being fully seen is the rule and not the exception. In every interaction, a subtle current stirs, fueled by curiosity and caution alike. There's an intricate rhythm at play, a push and pull between intrigue and self-preservation, shaping the way others respond to what they cannot easily explain. The presence of such depth acts as a silent invitation, but also a challenge, a reminder that some encounters ask more of us than we are ready to give. Attention is drawn naturally, not by effort but by the undeniable pull of something real, and yet the impact lingers long after the moment has passed. The very air seems to hum with the possibility of being understood, even as uncertainty clouds the way. It's not uncommon for fascination to walk hand in hand with uncertainty, for the prospect of authentic connection to unsettle as much as it attracts. When honesty runs deep, it often lays bare what others prefer to keep hidden. Eyes that truly see can be both a comfort and a confrontation, as they reveal not just what is pleasant but everything that lies beneath the surface. This level of presence, instead of being merely magnetic, becomes transformative, awakening hidden corners of the self that are rarely touched by casual encounters. In those moments, even the boldest may hesitate, unsure whether to move forward or retreat to the safety of familiar patterns. The result is a dance with vulnerability itself, a give and take that sometimes leads to genuine breakthrough, but just as often to a gentle turning away. What remains is a deeper understanding, that being witnessed in one's entirety is a rare gift, and that not everyone is ready to step into that kind of light. Yet even as others hold back, the journey continues, defined not by the reactions of the crowd, but by the unshakable commitment to live as one's truest self, regardless of who can stand the intensity of that truth. A certain kind of soul moves through life both welcomed and kept at arm's length, admired for a quality that many find difficult to name but impossible to ignore. Attraction often mingles with hesitation, drawing people near only for them to withdraw when the weight of connection becomes apparent. The dance of approach and avoidance weaves a pattern where presence is simultaneously celebrated and met with uncertainty. Solitude becomes a landscape both stumbled into and quietly maintained, born from the realization that what is offered often stirs more questions than comfort. The pathway narrows not out of indifference, but because the ordinary world cannot always accommodate the magnitude of such presence. The longing for authentic companionship remains undiminished, but the pursuit takes on the character of a quest for rare harmonies, spaces where hearts can meet in truth without pretense or guardedness. What is sought is not just the company of others, but the meeting of kindred spirits willing to step into the deep waters of mutual understanding. It is a search for reflections that do not distort, for souls strong enough to hold what is real without shying away. The process itself is neither hurried nor forced, unfolding with patience as the longing for resonance finds its answer only in those prepared for the full experience. Such meaningful encounters are few and far between, for the invitation to go beyond surface pleasantries is often met with uncertainty. The mixture of strength and sincerity that marks these seekers acts as a filter, sifting out those unwilling to leave the safety of the known. Entering into honest relationship with such depth is like stepping into unfamiliar territory, asking for openness and bravery in equal measure. Many are drawn by the allure, only to realize that the journey will take them beyond well-trodden paths, into places where comfort gives way to discovery. When genuine connection does emerge, it is not born of chance, but of a willingness to embrace the unknown together. Those who decline do so not because the call is lacking, but because it asks them to see themselves in new and unguarded ways. As a result, many opt for more predictable exchanges, choosing ease over authenticity. And yet, even in the face of such rarity, the commitment to walk with integrity remains, a quiet assurance that the right kind of company, though scarce, is worth every moment spent waiting. There are those whose lives unfold in the thin space between yearning and surrender, holding a vision for connection that rarely finds its equal. The silence they carry is at once sanctuary and confinement, a place where misunderstandings drift harmlessly past, yet also a chamber echoing with the absence of voices that might have understood. Within this quiet realm, one becomes the silent steward of an unfathomable interior world, entrusted with dimensions of feeling that remain untouched by casual conversation. What few realize is that these depths are both a blessing and a test. Every once in a while, a rare kinship emerges, one capable of holding the weight of unspoken truths, a bond that does not fracture in adversity but endures, forged by mutual recognition. These rare alliances become something almost eternal, steadfast in the face of time's storms, resilient because they were born from places few dare to explore. Yet, another current runs beneath the surface, shaping this solitary path, a landscape defined by invisible contests of intention and essence. The world around is not as peaceful as it seems, beneath the apparent calm, unseen forces clash, and what's at stake is authenticity itself. No shield or armor defends against these battles, the weapons are honesty, unwavering spirit, and a refusal to wear false faces. For those who embody these qualities, every encounter carries the potential for transformation. Their entry into any gathering is less an arrival and more a quiet upheaval, disrupting the inertia of comfort, quietly urging pretense to dissolve and truth to emerge. While this invisible impact brings hope to some, it unsettles those whose security depends on illusion. The presence of such a person does not simply fill space, it changes the texture of the air, coaxing everything hidden into the light. Their mere existence calls forth whatever is concealed beneath the surface, inviting others to face themselves more completely. This effect is not limited to gentle revelation, often, it becomes a confrontation with what has long been ignored or disguised. Those unwilling to let go of their illusions sometimes respond with resistance, unable to bear the clarity that has been offered. The discomfort that arises is not the fault of the one who sees clearly, but rather the natural tremor of structures built on shaky ground. Some choose distance, others rise in protest, but all are changed in the wake of such an encounter, even if they cannot admit it aloud. Some are called to disrupt comfort without ever intending it, simply by carrying an integrity that resists dilution. The world around them is subtly unsettled. Every conversation, every glance becomes a silent call for honesty, drawing a line between what is real and what is rehearsed. Each day brings a quiet struggle, not a clash of voices, but a persistent resistance to surrendering what is most true. Those who live this way do not choose battle, yet find themselves woven into it, bearing a clarity that cannot be hidden, standing in landscapes others pretend not to see. The weight of this stance is often measured by the distance it creates, for those most transformed by such authenticity are also the most likely to misunderstand, to keep their distance, or to respond with unrest. Yet even in isolation, the effect is undeniable, illusions break, and the atmosphere changes, proof that realness is a force capable of reshaping what seemed permanent. Another current shapes this solitary existence, a fundamental divergence from the pathways mapped by consensus. These uncommon souls move to the pulse of their own convictions, forging directions that rarely intersect with established roads. This separation is not the result of rebellion or disdain, but an inner drive that refuses to settle for borrowed ideals or temporary comforts. To live in this way is to constantly redraw the lines between self and society, questioning every inherited boundary, never quite finding a home among crowds that celebrate sameness. The process of growing into such truth means turning away from patterns that once promised acceptance, realizing that true belonging cannot be bartered for approval. The longing for meaningful exchange persists, but most gatherings offer only fleeting echoes of the depth they crave. Shallow conversation and scripted pleasantries feel abrasive against a sensibility that seeks only what is lasting and honest. The dissonance is not abstract but almost tangible, a tightening within the chest, an urge to withdraw rather than shrink to fit a space too small for what must be spoken. Attempts to adapt bring no relief. The discomfort of suppressing one's own magnitude is like trying to fold light into a shadow, it never quite fits, and the consequence is always felt. So, the journey continues, searching not for a place to hide, but for those rare moments and rare souls willing to witness the world as it truly is, and to share the silence that follows all that is genuine. Some find peace in corners far removed from the noisy crossroads of expectation, weaving their own sanctuary where only trust and depth are allowed to enter. Within these chosen havens, the usual masks are set aside, and the rich tapestry of thought and feeling is given room to breathe. Here, exchanges move beyond the obvious, ideas flow freely, and the conversation becomes an exploration rather than a performance. What might look like withdrawal from the outside is, in fact, a journey inward and upward, one that values honest reflection over shallow approval. By honoring the rhythms of their own inner world, these seekers make it possible for others to imagine a new kind of belonging, one rooted not in similarity, but in sincerity and courage. Living this way is proof that integrity can outshine popularity, and that the richest connections are those that spring from the heart's true soil. When alignment with the outside world proves elusive, choosing to honor the world within becomes both an act of resilience and a quiet revolution. Another thread runs even deeper, shaping daily choices and the very structure of life itself, a sense of calling that refuses to fade into the background. This is not some fleeting urge, but a powerful directive that shapes priorities, demands discipline, and forges a path where few have gone. The drive to fulfill this destiny requires more than fleeting attention, it asks for focus, continual self-discovery, and the willingness to refine both strengths and shortcomings. This guiding impulse becomes as fundamental as the beat of a heart, never letting its presence be forgotten, always pressing for a life lived with purpose. In such a life, the swirl of constant activity and idle chatter loses its allure. Moments spent in settings that lack resonance begin to feel not just empty, but counterproductive. Energy and attention become precious, reserved for pursuits that nurture the spirit and sharpen the mind. So there is a gradual withdrawal from the habitual, replaced by a gravitation toward quietude and contemplation. Time alone is not a retreat, but a cultivation, an environment where thoughts are allowed to deepen, where inspiration can visit, and where a sense of connection to something far greater is quietly reaffirmed. This self-chosen solitude becomes a wellspring from which clarity and renewal continually arise. Some lives are shaped in the quiet hours, far from applause or distraction, where inner guidance grows strong and convictions crystallize. Those who follow this path discover that solitude is not simply an empty room, but a space alive with insight and possibility. Here, vision is refined and strength is summoned from wells that others cannot see. The willingness to stand apart becomes essential. There, on the edge of consensus, the soft call of purpose rings loudest, and the soul's direction emerges with striking clarity. This solitary journey is not a sentence but an invitation, one that opens hidden corridors within, where self-awareness deepens and new capacities unfold. The quiet brings understanding, the absence of noise reveals layers waiting to be explored, and the roots of identity grow stronger in this nourishing stillness. Navigating a life marked by such difference calls for a new kind of wisdom, a creative, flexible response to the pangs of aloneness and the blessings of uniqueness. One of the first skills cultivated is a profound acceptance of the self, a gentle honoring of what makes one distinct. Through deep inner listening and the slow practice of compassion toward oneself, these souls learn to recognize that the very qualities that once seemed to isolate are, in fact, rare abilities. Expression takes many forms. Through writing, reflection, or art, the vast interior landscape is explored, and solitude becomes a place of comfort, not exile. Within this peace, a steady foundation is built, a stronghold from which the world can be faced without losing one's center. Alongside this acceptance comes the longing to encounter others who resonate at a similar depth. Though such connections are infrequent, they are possible. Kindred spirits may be found beyond the surface of daily life, often in places devoted to reflection, creativity, or meaningful exploration. It takes time and courage to step into these spaces, but the rewards are friendships and communities where one's true self is not only recognized, but welcomed. Periods of aloneness become opportunities to harness untapped reserves of inspiration. When external distractions fade, the mind and heart are free to wander into new realms, giving rise to work that can touch, move, and uplift others. Through music, poetry, meditation, or invention, what began as isolation is transformed into a gift for the world, a contribution born of authenticity. Choosing to stand apart is, in itself, an act of transformation. Those who accept their individuality discover strengths that are revealed only through the refining fires of solitude. This process requires both bravery and a willingness to be open. What emerges is a new confidence, a recognition that the distance from the crowd makes room for a profound intimacy with oneself. Here, bonds are forged not only with others but with the richest, most essential parts of the spirit. A person awakened in this way becomes a silent luminary, illuminating paths not through conformity, but by standing tall in their distinctiveness. Their story, marked by challenges and triumphs, reveals the enduring power of authenticity, a force that quietly invites others to shed their disguises and honor their own depths. Such journeys remind us that real strength is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to find meaning in the midst of it. Those who travel this road serve as quiet guides, showing that it is possible to find community even in solitude, and to turn every seeming wound of difference into a wellspring of courage and creative purpose. And so, as the story draws to a close, there remains a simple truth: every individual who chooses honesty over acceptance, depth over pretense, becomes a living bridge, connecting the unspoken longings of many to a brighter possibility. In telling these stories and listening for echoes in our own lives, we kindle a shared light. Within each journey, whether walked alone or in company, there is the invitation to become more fully ourselves, and in that fullness, to discover the profound unity at the heart of all difference.